Let's now talk about air. We are going to cover all aircraft on both factions, with the Colonials and the scout plane. I'm also going to explain the difference way or the ways to kind of take off and utilize it to your advantage. So the very first thing whenever planes finally get tech, because they will not be in immediate tech, is you are going to want to find yourself an aircraft hangar, the aircraft depot, and the aircraft runway. Now, the aircraft hangar, and I have one already built, its sole and singular purpose is that you can build out the Deadalus aircraft. It has a front gunner and a hull breaker mine compartment that you can place. So from here, we're just going to utilize the front gunner. I'm going to show how to go ahead and more or less operate it. Now, whenever you are using the scout plane, you cannot enter when you are carrying items. It is the only plane that does not require you to have a pilot's uniform. So here we open our inventory by pressing tab. Then we hold the left alt and we left click to drop everything that we're just dropping on the ground. I'm on dead branch, that's noted by the pre-release. So here it's completely fine. Once you are in, make sure that your gun up here is reloaded. You will notice an altimeter, a speed, and a throttle. To get this moving on your runway and such, you're going to mouse wheel until you are about at 20%. Then throttle back down to about 5% so you do not lurch forward. These are extremely fragile. I cannot tell you the amount of times that I've been at like 20% and I just crashed because of everything. That is how you move forward. Now, moving backwards, you hold space and you need a negative throttle. Go to about negative 30% and you're able to move. So let's go ahead and get this back up to about 25 and we're gonna line it up. And to take off, throttle to about 50%. Now your keys may be different than mine. I had to actually swap it to where it's S and W. For me, I have it as W. W allows you to increase your altitude, as noted right here. And S allows you to decrease. Think of it as moving forward and back. We are not going anywhere on any other style of hex. This is simply showcasing the plane. This can also take petrol or diesel. My recommendation is to have diesel in your scout plane for a longer flight duration. Speed is not always going to be needed. We're going to climb up to the ceiling height, and we are going to go from there. Now, you'll notice up in the top right, you have this little up and down arrow. This is your landing gear. As annotated right here by this flight controls, if you press F, the landing gear will raise up. And my wheels are no longer down either. If you press F again, you'll note where they just decreased and they are down. A and D are your two keys to go left and right. You have a rudder. It's mainly used for a tighter turn, but most people won't be utilizing this whatsoever. Now, for combat, it's the same metric as when you are engaging with anything else. Hold right click, and this one will allow you to steer the plane. The only difference between this and Warthunder is you do not have an aim ahead, so you have to gauge where your enemy is. If they're going. Then you just hold left click. Right click and then left click. My recommendations is if you already are on a really good heading on things, you don't have to worry about bursting it. But if you have a target in your sight, you are more or less essentially good to go. Your bomber in the back is going to be coordinating with the driver. So let's say I wanted to bomb Quillery. I'm just using him as an example. And if I had somebody with me, I would gauge the distance and I would tell them bombs away. They would then just left click. And it's that simple. Now landing the plane, you want to identify where your runway is. This entire strip right here. You want to identify this item right here and you want to line it up. This outside is your legitimate runway. Decrease to about 40-ish meters, maybe 50 to 40 meters, and have your landing gear down. Lower your throttle to about half, so 50. This way you don't have a whole lot of speed. Line it up accordingly, and if you have to tap, do so. Like I'm coming in as bunny hopping, and it's seamless. Bring your throttle all the way down to 0 and hold space and you are good to go. Now let's go ahead and flip this around real quick and we are going to go store this. We're going to go put this up and then I'm going to talk about the other aircraft and what their parts require. I'm going to show the aircraft that you can assemble in the hangar, how to assemble them, and what's required by them as well. Now that the scout plane is more or less in a parking spot or kind of put away, we can talk about the other aircraft. To first and foremost have your aircraft assembled, you're going to find what frame you have stored in your aircraft depot. Your aircraft depot is more or less a storage depot style storage area for not just your aircraft, but also for everything else that logistics can run. So from here, let's talk about your very first style aircraft for the Colonials. Which would be which would be your fighter, your blind silver. If you have the frame for each of your aircraft, you would select it here, much less as these guys have already selected their bomber. We are going to cover the bomber here in a second. You would then see an empty frame, and you would use a truck or heavy hauler with the trailer. When you interact with something that like a material transfer station like this right here, you will select the inventory of the trailer. So if I'm transferring stuff from the magic box to here, I'm going to come up over here, interact, and I'm going to select the trailer, and then I'm going to select what I need from here. What you need to know is every single specific plane that you are trying to assemble requires an exact amount of parts needed for that plane created at the large assembly station with the upgraded variant, the aircraft assembly. So for your first one, we're going to talk about your blind silver. Its cost is 40 processed construction materials, 200 ASM1s, 100 ASM2s, 2 rare alloys at a cook time or build time of 4 hours. It requires 1 Colonial aircraft engine, 5 Colonial aircraft mechanic parts. Those are made in the aircraft maintenance factory, and the larger parts are created in the upgraded variant for it, which requires 250 processed construction materials. Or the aircraft maintenance factory, this requires 250 processed construction materials. And do not see where they built one over here, which is fine. But for more or less every single part that you need, every single frame you need, requires either small or large components to build it. You would Get in the truck. Select the maintenance transfer station, or the MTS. Grab the pieces you need by selecting the inventory of the trailer. You cannot do this without the upgraded trailer. Grab the pieces, select them in the inventory of the trailer. You are then going to drive over to the aircraft itself, and I'm going to find one. I'm going to find a fighter or something real quick. And you would drop them off in the inventory. Here's a fighter. I'm hoping it's unlocked, and it is not. Here are the pieces that you have. This is for your blind silver, your fighter. It has a 20 mil. It fires a 20 millimeter machine gun. It is a single pilot use. You must have a pilot's uniform in order to enter every other aircraft that you build and that you want to operate. Here you can see the pieces that you need. If I wanted to disassemble this and repair the frame, I would drive the hauler over with the trailer and remove aircraft part. You right click and you click remove aircraft part. And you see where it says aircraft parts can only be removed by a vehicle with a stockpile. That is your trailer. Same thing with submitting. You'll drive up with the hauler. Let's say I have the trailer right here. I'll right click and then submit. That's a quick and down dirty on how to assemble and disassemble. And here they have, excuse me, they have their frame packaged up here, but forgot to pull out the actual piece itself. My guess is they're trying to figure out what to do. They're going to try to unpackage it, and it's just not going to be packaged. If anything, they should have just clicked here. When you pull out the crate, right, or you unpackage to public, and you pull out the frame itself, this will then show the frame of what's needed. Here, this is the dive bomb. This is what they are trying to build. It requires the following: 1 small engine, 5 small parts. It's the Myrmidon. It also fires a 12-7 machine gun and can drop 3 strike rounds with a 4th one loaded up. The very next one we're going to talk about will be the troop carrier, the Pegasus. But the Myrmidon, let's go ahead and cover the costs on it associated. 40 processed construction materials, 85 assembly material 1s, 175 ASM 2s, 100 ASM 3s, 2 rare alloys. The next one that I was going to mention is your Pegasus. This is your troop carrier. At the time of recording this, there's no known information about actual backline lodging. This is supposed to be able to drop crates as well, but we do not know at the time of this video. It can essentially have 1 gunner, which fires a 12.7 millimeter machine gun. It requires 2 Colonial Aircraft engines, large, and 6 large Colonial Aircraft mechanical parts. Its cost is 5 steel construction materials, 20 ASM 3s, 20 ASM 4s, and 4 rare alloys at a build time of 6 hours. And last but not least, that big aircraft that you seen, the Tzykalia, I think that's how you say it. It has 3 machine gunners, which fire a 12.7 millimeter machine gun, a slot for a Bombadier, which has in total 35 bombs. And these bombs are not your strike rounds. These are, and I'm going to try to get it correct. So weird without playing the mod, because I'm having a hard time to identify. These bombs are the Raid Breaker, the Mark II Raid Breaker. It can hold 35 with a reserve 36 or a loaded 36th round. Very good for deleting targets. I had a lot of fun doing some bombing runs on it. Build time is 8 hours. It requires 2 large Colonial aircraft engines, 9 large Colonial aircraft mechanical parts, 60 steel construction materials, 65 ASM5s, 25 ASM3s, 40 ASM4s, and 8 rare alloys. All of these use heavy oil. All of them. You cannot swap it out for diesel or petrol, unlike the scout plane. And as you can see here, he's interacting with the plane. He's dropping the pieces off on it. And just as I had showed you before, all he needs now is just one small part. So with that, I hope this helps. And I really appreciate, you know, what the devs were able to build with releasing what Airborne is going to look like for the Colonial side. Next, we are going to take a look at the Warden side. The Warden Aircraft. Okay, so much like the Colonial scout plane, the Warden scout plane, the Herald, is also at 80 refined materials. It is also going to be one of the first ones that tech, so it's going to be valuable to have enough in there as well. So the same as the Colonial scout plane, where the pilot can operate the main gun, like the machine gun, and the passenger can drop the coiled out torpedo. Very, very simple, very straightforward. I'm not going to go through and build one and show it, but I am going to come over and more or less talk about the planes. Well, that knocks that out. That's the torpedo bomber. That's the torpedo bomber, or the heavy, or their no, I think that is the torpedo bomber. Let's take a look. So in just like the aircraft here, the Wardens have one additional, and that is the White Raven. It is the light torpedo bomber, where you have to fly level with the sea, and then you can drop it. And then you have the Herald, which is the scout plane. I think it's the scout plane. I'm gonna come over here and take a look again. Yes, it is indeed the scout plane. I think it's good to show mistakes while you're working everything, because you don't know everything. Then you have the Zealot, where you have more or less the bomber and such a thing. It's gun, drop ship, out of something, it's large fuselage. No, this is your troop carrier. Then you have your Harbinger, which is your fighter. So now let's find us a launch pad to talk about the other components that's needed for stuff. And we are going to discuss each. Starting with your fighter, the Harbinger. Again, everything that is made on the pad, aside from the scout plane, must have a pilot uniform, and they all use heavy oil. Your Harbinger, it has a high velocity arm that does 50% extra damage per shot. It requires 1 small Warden aircraft engine, 5 small Warden aircraft mechanical parts. Its build time is 4 hours. It costs 40 process construction materials, 200 assembly material 1s, 100 assembly material 4s, and 2 rare alloys. Your man of war, your more or less sea bomber, if you will. It can carry a moray torpedo, and it has a rear gunner with the capacity to fire a 12.7 millimeter gun. It requires 3 or small aircraft engines, and 3 Warden small aircraft mechanical parts, or excuse me, 5 Warden aircraft mechanical parts small to assemble. Its cost to 25 process construction materials, 85 assembly material 1s, 108 assembly material 2s, 20 ASM3s, 20 ASM4s, and 2 rare alloys. The rear gunner can cause enemies to lose stability, which is good for more or less for like defense and dogfighting style. Next, your White Raven, your seaplane, can also be launched off of aircraft carriers. It has a high velocity barrel that also deals 50% extra damage per shot. And also, excuse me. And also, its build time is 4 hours. Its total cost is 40 process construction materials, 145 ASM2s, 40 ASM3s, and 2 rare alloys. It requires 1 small Warden aircraft engine and 5 small Warden aircraft mechanical parts. And this one's kind of unique because you can see the middle buoy for the launch system, and it kind of looks interesting in my take. So, yeah. From what I've been told, I think this one has a triple barrel that can fire. So, depending on how good of a pilot you are, is dependent on how good you can survive. Next, you have your bomber, your Welkinrive. This one is also your for your like bombing runs and stuff. It has 2 gunners, which fire 12.7 millimeter, and it can carry the Mark II raid breaker. I'm unsure on the capacity, but I do know it's less than the Colonial. Its total build time is 8 hours. Its cost is 60 steel construction materials, 65 assembly material 5s, 25 assembly material 3s, 40 ASM4s, and 8 rare alloys. It requires 2 large Warden aircraft engines and 9 large Warden aircraft mechanical parts. Last but not least, your troop carrier, your where you got the Wardens that can paratroop out. It has a 12-7 gunner, which provides some style of defense. Its total build time is 6 hours, and the required materials is 5 steel construction materials, 20 ASM3s, and 20 ASM4s, and 4 rare alloys. And in order to finally piece it together, it requires 2 large Warden aircraft engines and 5 large Warden aircraft mechanical parts. Honestly, personally, I am very, very eager to see this built. Or not built, but to see air finally have its place in Foxhole. And one thing you'll do is if you have a large pad either right next to the aircraft, the depot, or you're bringing it in by large train, you're going to utilize whichever crane is closest to it. So if it's bringing up this way and coming down over here, you'll utilize this crane, and you can drop it on either pad so long as the crane, you can drop so the cranes can actually reach either pad. From there, you'll drop it onto the pad and click submit loading area equipment. Brief overview, and I know things are going to change over time, which in due time things will be better and everything else will be set. If you found this quick little overview for the aircraft helpful, appreciate the thumbs up. If you didn't like it, hit the thumbs down. For my Warden players, I want you to note anything that you see after aircraft launches so that people come to here, they can read the comments and everything else. It would really help not just myself, but other new players that want to get into aircraft, that want to understand things and everything else. So again, if you're a Warden player, please annotate the things below if I messed up on anything. Same thing with the Colonial players. Like, I'm only human. I don't get it perfect, but I try my best to show the different nuanced stuff and the different things within this game. Again, if you like this video, hit that thumbs up. If you didn't, hit the thumbs down. And if you want to help the channel out, I would greatly appreciate the sub to the channel. Until then, I will see you on the next one.